Well, hello, everybody. My name's Philip Brown. Hey, what is FOIL? Man, hey, if you've ever been in class and the teacher puts a question like this on the board and the smartest kid in school just boom, spits it out, does it in their head, and you're like, what? This question is something you need to be able to answer. So here's the thing. FOIL is just a shortcut. It's an acronym. It's going to help you multiply things like this together quickly and accurately. Once you've got this, you know how to do it. This problem right here is going to take you less than 15 seconds. But even more importantly, the thing that's coming next, factoring, is like backwards. It's the reverse, in a way, of multiplication. That's where, for many students, math gets hard. FOIL makes that a lot easier for you. So here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to show you, we're going to review how multiplication works. And the reason we're going to do that is because all the parts for FOIL stands for first, outer, inner, last. You have to see where that comes from in order to use the shortcut. So once we get the parts, I'm going to show you how the shortcut works. And then at the end, I'm going to give you a diagram, help you remember how it goes. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's see with multiplication, right? So if we have two binomials, they're multiplying like these right here. What it means everything in the first times the second. And the way you set it up is like this. Now, this method that I'm going to show you today, FOIL, it works for only two binomials. But this method that you see right now, that works for anything, right? So we're going to go ahead and distribute. And typically, with what you're learning now, the middle terms, those are like terms, so you can combine them, and you end up with a trinomial, three terms, degree of 2 is called a quadratic, right? So this method always works, right? But these parts that we see on the screen right here are going to help us understand where FOIL comes from. So let's go ahead and get into that now. Let's talk about what the parts of distributing are that we call first, outer, inner, last, which is what FOIL stands for. So first thing first, the F stands for first, right? So you've got two binomials. Each one has two parts. So the first part of the one on the left and the first part of the one on the right, those are called the firsts. And we multiply those together, of course. Now, the O stands for outside, right? And the outside means that we have the whole thing is like kind of a group. And if you look at the physical outside, so the thing way on the far left and the thing way on the far right, that's what we call the outside. And then we've got the inside, which is the stuff in the middle. And at the end, we have the last, which is the last thing of the binomial on the left and the last thing of the binomial on the right. And of course, those things get multiplied together too, and that's what last stands for. So let's see where all these things come into play real quick in the traditional writing it out method, right? So when you do the first, you multiply the first together, and that's what makes your very first term of 3x squared. That's what the first thing comes from, right? And then if you do the outside, the 3x times the 5, that's where the 15x comes from, right? Now you don't see the outside in the final answer because it's right here and it's like terms. And so the insides, right? The insides multiply together and they make the 2x, and those two, the outside inside, combine to make 13x. And then, of course, when we get to the last part, the negative 2 times 5, those are going to be your last term over there, which is called your constant. Maybe you don't remember how that works, but it's right there. So now that we know where the parts are, let's see how we use the shortcut, right? So first, outer, inner, last. You're not going to write any of that stuff down that you do when we write it out. This is all in your head. So you're going to see a problem like this, and you're going to think first, outer, inner, last. The first two, you multiply those together, you just write it down, 3x squared. Now, you might want to write down the outside at first, right? The 3x times the 5. And you might want to write down the inside, the negative 2x, like that. But you can maybe keep this in your head and just go ahead and combine like terms and write it down. But either way, the last two make negative 10. So for sure, you see the first two, you write that down. You do the last two, you write that down. And if you're just learning, it's a good idea to write out each one and then combine like terms and put it together like this. But maybe you can keep outside plus inside in your head. And the people are really good at that's what they do. But at first, maybe this is where you need to start. But that's how FOIL works. First, outside, inside, last. I think it's pretty cool. So let's see an example of it, right? First, outside, inside, last. So let's do a new one. Let's say we're going to do 5x plus 3 times 2x plus 1. So the first would be 10x squared, right? The first would be these two. Okay, now the O stands for outside. The outside would be 5x times negative 1. That's negative 5x. The inside, 3 times 2. Well, that makes it plus 6. And of course, the last two make 3 times negative 1, which is negative 3. Can combine like terms right there in the middle. Negative 5 plus 6 is a positive 1. Boom, it's right there. Now, if you're really good at it, you do first outside plus inside, and you write it down, and last. But if you're not ready for this part right here and you need to do this one, hey, that's cool. You're on your path anyway. Let's try one more example just to make sure we're solid, right? So we have 8x plus 5, 3x plus 4. So FOIL, first, outside, inside, right here, and then last. So let's go ahead and explore this one, right? So first, 3x times 8x is 24x. The outside is, of course, 8x times 4, which is 32. The inside is 5 times 3x, which is 15, and the last two make 20. Now, again, maybe you can do these parts right here in your head, just add them up, and that's what you get, right? 32 plus 15, 47. First, outside plus inside, and then last. So I promised you a little diagram right here. I'll put a link in the description so you can print this off if you want. It's this one right here. I think it's pretty easy to look at, pretty easy to remember. Hey, I hope you learned something today. If you did and you like this, do what all the cool kids are doing. Go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, share, all that kind of good stuff. If you're a teacher, check out my Substack. We've got a weekly challenge problem that you can use in your classroom just for fun. It's pretty cool. On my website, on teachingmath.org, got all kinds of cool stuff for teachers. I've got a teacher-based teacher site. All that stuff's kind of cool. So I really enjoyed you being here with me today. I enjoyed this problem, and I hope to see you again soon. Have a good day.